Hello, I'm Hanna Boëthius and welcome to my KetoCon slightly different 2020 presentation for you guys. Let me share my screen. I will tell you a little bit more about myself in a second, but let's get the pretty screens going so that we have something to look at. Like that. That is me. How interesting. Today, I will be talking to you about a healthy laptop lifestyle. This is clearly something that most of us have been facing in the past sort of couple of weeks, a couple of months, depending on where in the world you live currently. I myself have been laptopping, to put it that way, for, well, since the beginning of this in March, but also a little bit longer than that, and I'll get to that in a second. I am here in my home in Switzerland, so this presentation comes from Switzerland with love to you guys. So before I start talking about myself, let's go back to this woman, actually, if we can. No, not that far. This woman, the one sitting right in front of you. This is, I imagine this woman's name is Rachel, and she's just started her online business or venture or started working from home. And she sits there all day on her sofa and, you know, she eats lunch in front of her computer, if she remembers to. And movement is definitely not prioritized in her life. She only drinks coffee. She sort of forgets about water and electrolytes and all that stuff that you consciously know is healthy. But, you know, coffee is good. It keeps you energized. It's awesome. So she treats herself to chocolate as well and wine after work because, you know, after work, and if you can't meet friends, then you might as well do it on your own. And this is only because she's worth it, of course. And also she goes to bed at 1 or 2 a.m. and wakes up at 8 o'clock and she's drained. So in this little presentation, I wanted to perhaps alert Rachel to a few things that she might be able to improve, but also perhaps someone out there of you guys. So now this is me. Jeez. I am Hanna Boëthius, like I said. I am, first of all, a type 1 diabetic, and this is probably a topic that you've been hearing me talk about and yap around online and on all the other KetoCon events and everything. I usually really am heavily focused on all things diabetes because this is where my passion is, this is where I have my heart, this is where, well, this is where I am since I've had it since 1985 when I was just 2. And I made every mistake that a type 1 diabetic can do. And this is generally what I talk about, the mistakes and how to repair them. Anyway, I've also been a business owner since 2012, which is a little bit longer than maybe some of you have worked a laptop lifestyle. So I feel like I have a few aces up my sleeve in this area as well. If I know people with diabetes, but I also know online entrepreneurs and how they could be a little bit healthier in their lives. And my whole why in life is to focus on lifestyle choices for health and to help people get healthier. So this coincides beautifully. I am the founder of Hanna Diabetes Expert. You can find me online, and also the Low Carb Universe, which you can also find online, which is Europe's healthiest event. Just a small thing like that. So, to improve your health, there are many things you can do, but there are a few main pillars that I find especially important to do and focus on. And I know that a lot of you guys do as well, but it's good with a reminder every once in a while. So first of all, of course, the nutrition. It's more important than maybe we know, and especially now when we're just sitting at home, to actually fuel our brains. How we'll get into, and also how important hydration is. Remember Rachel with the coffee? Maybe not the best idea ever, every day, all day. What about supplements? Do you need them? Should you take them? What should you take in that case? We'll get into all of that. And then stress. And this is really the productivity killer #1 if you have too much of it. I can tell from my own experience, but I also know that from a lot of other people, stress can really wreak havoc, not only on your all over health, but also things like blood sugar management and stuff like that, that is a little bit more important for me to focus on. And part of stress is, of course, sleep, it is movement, and it is time and time management. We also have something to do with mindset. Having to change from going to the office every day to sitting at home, pretending to be at the office every day, it's a huge mindset shift. You have to really get back into sort of the routine and finding your new routine while doing that. And things like how to change your mindset around this, what is success, redefining that whole thing, and what is productivity, because productivity will not look the same as it did a couple months ago today, and also factors that can help you in this. So this is what we're going to go through today, and I hope you're with me for the ride, because some of this could be your make it or break it point to consider. So this is a fantastic slide that I show in, I think, every single one of my presentations, because diet, and especially when it comes to stress and when you're just casually walking over to the fridge and all that stuff, it's like, diet, did I really eat that? Or it's gone from my fridge, no one else is here, so I must have eaten it. But it's just trying to highlight that thing that we could perhaps do with being a little bit more mindful when it comes to what we're eating in our diet. So nutrition, this should really not take long with this beautiful audience, because this is what we're all here about. First of all, feed your brain. Make sure that you give your brain the most adequate amounts of energy and nutrients so that it can work at sort of a top level. And this, of course, preaching to the choir, but this means skip added sugar. The brain is really not happy when it has too much sugar, or it gets really happy and it gets hyper and then you can't think anyway. So really make sure that you have no added sugar. Make sure that you eat just real food. Just eat real food. It's a really corny acronym, but it's so true. And really, now that you have the time, or have had the time, to maybe get into the habit of making your own food a little bit more than you used to, maybe you have some fantastic quick recipes that you can keep in your lifestyle now that perhaps your society in your area is also starting to open up a little bit after the lockdown. And here is another important point. Just like with diabetes, living a low-carb keto lifestyle is all about individuality. It has to work for you. It has to fit you and your goals and what you're trying to achieve. So you really have to find your level of low-carb and keto. So that also means how many carbs is good for you, how much protein, how much fat. Should you be fasting? Should you not be fasting? Maybe fasting stresses your system. Maybe fasting is fantastic because you keep your mind off of food. You have to figure all these things out, because it's not just a cut and paste and cookie cutter sort of approach to getting healthier. And this goes back to my previous slide, which was about presence. When you eat, make sure that you're present, that you taste everything, that it becomes like a mindful practice rather than just scoffing in the energy because you need it, because your next meeting is in 5 minutes. No, in that case, you need to plan a little bit better, and you have to create more time for your meals so that you can be there, and so that the body has time and the chance to soak up the wonderful nutrients that you are providing it with. But maybe because if you're just doing this, maybe it's not soaking it all up like it should. And then, of course, hydration is a huge thing. Like Rachel, I know most of us, myself included, do enjoy that kick of a coffee every now and then, but maybe there should also be space for some water in your life. And especially clean, filtered water, if you live in an area where it isn't, clean from the beginning. Water every day all day because it does flush your body of toxins. It helps the cells maintain their structure. It helps with so many things. And also, of course, blood sugar management. You will hear me saying this a lot because I can relate it a little bit, but it is a huge question, and hydration can help with so many things. So maybe if you're tired and sluggish, maybe it's just a simple thing like you're not drinking enough clean water, or you don't have enough electrolytes. It can be a really, really tiny thing. Yes, coffee is one thing, but alcohol also has the same effect. So with Rachel's, I'm not saying anything that there's anything wrong with alcohol. I do enjoy alcohol myself, that's fine. Everyone is entitled to their opinion and their choices. I don't judge, it's fine, but alcohol also has a dehydrating effect on the body. So bear that in mind if you are treating yourself to a glass or two of exquisite wine as an afterwork. You do need to also hydrate along with it. And this is a huge one, and this is a bit of a, I don't want to say pet peeve because that's very negative, but something positive. Like, I thrive when I see this, when people do this, and then they ask, why am I not reaching my goals? Why am I not losing weight? Why am I not doing blah, blah, blah? It's because you may be drinking your calories. A bulletproof fatty coffee, which is great in its right place, but maybe if that is too good of a habit, that can also impact all your goals. So make sure you don't drink and eat your calories. Don't substitute eating calories with drinking calories if it's not part of your plan, is what I'm trying to say. And so supplements, the forever question about supplements. Do I need supplements? Hanna, what supplements should I be taking? If I'm trying to achieve this, what is good for me then? Blah, blah, blah. I can't tell. I can't tell like that because it's not specific enough, and I don't know your story well enough to be able to advise you. So actually, there's not much I can do about it unless you actually get tested for insufficiencies. So this is basically a simple blood draw, check the most normal ones, like some minerals, maybe vitamin D, all of B vitamins, stuff like that. They can really check easily in the blood to see if you have enough, and if you don't, then, well, supplement. If you do, then, well, don't. But that's the easy question, or easy answer. But as a rule of thumb, everyone who lives sort of in the northern hemisphere at this point is probably insufficient in vitamin D. Our soils have very little magnesium in them, so there's not a lot of that going into the food that we're eating, and omega-3, because, well, especially me, I am Scandinavian, so I do love fish, but I don't eat it very often because I don't know, I can't cook it properly or something. But and omega-3 to help with that anti-inflammatory function in the body. Another one is mushroom coffee. It sounds really disgusting, but it's actually quite good. This is and this is not your normal like chanterelle mushroom or button mushroom. This is adaptogens, so they can help your body handle things a little bit differently. They work with or work alongside the neuro things in the brain, neurosignaling things in the brain, and it can help. It doesn't have to. It doesn't work for everyone. But if you maybe want to try it out, it can also relax you a little bit, all this stuff. So especially through this very stressful time. So maybe give it a try. Give it some research and some time. Also check out for your gut health. And I know there's a lot of other speakers who are much better at this than I am when it comes to gut health. But gut health is a huge thing, because not only for your overall health, but also so that you can absorb the nutrients that you are giving your body and giving your body to play with and rebuild and restore itself from. And I mean, transportation of supplement right now isn't really a problem if you are in a laptop lifestyle like that. But when you are generally in a laptop lifestyle and you do travel a bit and you do have to get stock ups on the road and stuff like that, then transportation and acquisition is a huge thing. And there are many tricks for transporting supplements properly. You can do it per day, and you can do it everything in a bag or whatever. Just make sure you don't take every single bottle, because that takes too much space, especially if you're traveling. Acquisition, I mainly mention this because, especially in Europe, there are very many companies that they are very expensive when it comes to supplements, but they're not necessarily that good. So there are better choices out there, and especially if you can shop online. And a very non-sponsored plug is iHerb, which I love, and I order all my supplements from there. So that's, and they ship everywhere, so I can just order it on the road and it shows up a couple of days later. And this is another version of Rachel. And as you maybe can tell, I have probably pulled this face a couple of times, especially in the past weeks, because the next point is stress. Stress, stress, stress. And who hasn't experienced this kind of a moment where everything is, it's just so frustrating and you can't get anything done, and the person you're supposed to meet doesn't show up, or the person you're supposed to work with is not doing their part, or you can't get your head together. So many factors are stressing us in this moment, and especially during the last couple of weeks when everything has been turned upside down. So instead, I put in a beautiful beach picture to calm us all down a little bit. So what is stress? Well, stress can be anything, really. Anything that keeps you from the calm, centered, amazing person that you really are. Anything that that puts you off that is stress to you. That can be running for the bus, it can be stress in the form of food, it can be stress in the form of dehydration, it can be stress because you're not used to the situation, it can be stress because you have to work from your laptop, it can be stress because you don't get to see your colleagues, and maybe you're one of a person who needs to be in an office, in a thriving office with your whole team around you to work really well. All of this, and also maybe being, for example, not productive enough, not as productive in the same way as you were before, because as I said, productivity does not and cannot look the same now as it did before the whole lockdown situation. Food and stress, as I mentioned, too much sugar, too much of something that you are slightly intolerant against, like milk, dairy, eggs, nuts, all of these things, or the most common soy, most common allergens. If you eat that and your body gets stressed, then it becomes a stress. You might as well be chased by a bear down the hill, like we were 10,000, 100,000 years ago, because it becomes a stressful situation for the body. And here we can work in two ways. Either we manage the stress acutely, and that's, we need both of these, or we prevent it before it has even happened. So stress management, for example, is the long-term things. Yoga, making sure you move your body, EFT tapping, breathing, all of these things. And stress prevention, actually, sorry, that was the acute part sort of thing. What you can do right now, take a step back. Don't let yourself get stressed by the situation and focus on something calming. And stress prevention, on the other hand, is the sort of long-term thing, like meditation, and you build up that sort of tolerance after a while. Time management, can you plan your time better? Can you set your routine differently so that you don't have to become stressed? And I know it's probably been just as amazing for you as for me to wake up sort of 5 minutes before your first meeting or something like that, and just sort of, especially if it's a phone one and you don't even have to get ready, that's great. But you sort of just roll in, you take the phone call, and then, you get to sleep more, you get to take more time, for whatever you want, especially in the mornings. But also at night, you don't have to commute, you don't have to do anything like that. So there would be more time to prevent stress. Doesn't mean that it always works, doesn't mean that we all do it, but there would be the chance to it. Yes, and this is a huge thing, and we're going to come back to this in the mindset section. But find your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you working so hard for this? Why are you stressing yourself out? These are important questions to ask yourself, because the whole point of life, in my opinion, is to have fun. And I know it's not always possible. There are there are stressful situations, stressful people, stressful everything. But if you find a why that you really work towards, then, and sort of build all the things that you do towards that why, then maybe you can have a little bit more fun in your life as well. Then not everything feels like a chore. Another one, well, sleep, which this is also a big one, because there's just not, I could have a whole presentation just on sleep because it's so beautiful, but this is really a quality versus quantity thing. You don't maybe have to sleep 12 hours every night. That's fine. And even if you are stressed and can't sleep because of that, that's fine too. But as long as you make sure that you get qualitative, deep sleep, REM sleep, and even light sleep in the right proportions, you're gonna be fine, and you don't have to sleep 12 hours a night. This, of course, requires that you plan your sleep, that you prioritize your sleep. It also means that you make sure that you are calm enough when you go to bed, that you are calm enough, and maybe do a little evening meditation or yoga nidra, which I found out quite recently about. And it's a fantastic way to just drift off to sleep. It's beautiful. It's like a long meditation, and they guide you and you sort of just drift off to sleep. It's so nice. Anyway, prioritizing your sleep is a huge thing. Set sleep times, just like you have a wake up time, set a sleep time when you start getting ready for bed, and then you go to bed by that point in time, and then you drift off to sleep for a hopefully wonderfully relaxing night of sleep. I know this is not always possible, especially now in a stressful situation generally in the world, and with lockdowns and everything changing and blah, blah, blah. But yes, try to plan for it so that you have the best chance of a good night's sleep. Again, here, alcohol and caffeine, not too close to bedtime, and not too much of it, because that will actually interrupt your sleep. Yes, a glass or two of wine will make you possibly sleepy, but that just makes your body wake up in a couple hours again and be like, oh, well, I had to burn all of that alcohol, so you might as well be awake so that I can have more energy. Same with caffeine, of course, that's a no-brainer. Don't drink it too close to bed. And also here you can do a lot with supplements, of course. Things like melatonin, if it gets really bad, you can take, that is at least more natural than sleeping pills. And magnesium can help your sleep. GABA, for example, which is fantastic. I really love that when I can't sleep that well, or 5-HTP, or even CBD oil. I know it's a bit, discussed about that, but it can help you relax. It can help your body and mind to switch off and sleep a little bit deeper. And here are also things like not only alcohol and caffeine and supplements and all of those things play a role, but also things like blue light. So in front of a screen the whole time, and even screens, phones at bedtime and all of this stuff, or even in bed, even worse. All of this stuff really interrupts our natural melatonin production. And so if you're gonna look at screens for very late, then why not get a pair of blue light blockers or something like that, so that you at least switch a little bit off of it. And you can also there are also things you can put on, apps you can put on your phone and your computer, so it becomes more yellow light and sort of switches off some of the blue light like that. And normally I talk about jet lag here, but none of us have that problem at this point of time, as we can't travel very far. But things like, as I already said, no devices. Maybe read a book before bed instead. Remember books? Yeah, they're actually not electronical, and they don't emit the blue light. So books are great. Journaling. How about playing a board game before bed? That's nice. A beauty routine, having a hot bath or shower. Or maybe some herbal tea along with your favorite book. That sets you up for great sleep. Not the stressing until midnight about your latest project with a glass of alcohol in hand and you know, hoping that the supplements will cover it up. No, this is all about routine, technically. Supplements are good, but routine is better. And another thing that I really like doing with sleep is track it with track your sleep with a wearable. This is what I'm trying to say. For example, Fitbit tracks your sleep, Oura Ring does the same, tracks your sleep really well. So don't be afraid to, maybe if you feel like you're having problems, that you're waking up exhausted, look at things that you can do and maybe then track your sleep so that you know when things go wrong and where things go wrong, and also what, for example, supplements or routine things help you sleep better. Movement, all our favorite topic, because I really don't like the word exercise, so I prefer to say movement. This has to become a priority when you are working a laptop lifestyle, because you won't have that natural sort of, oh, I'm walking from my car to the office building, I'm walking up the stairs, blah, blah, blah. No, you won't have that. So you really have to prioritize movement as a self-care practice when you are working from your laptop, wherever it is in the world, whether it's from your sofa or, you know, sandy beach in Bali, it doesn't matter. You have to prioritize the movement part. So exercise, and there are very many forms of it. High intensity, low intensity, resistance training, body weight, yoga, walking, running, you know, you name it, they got it. So you have to find what works for you and what you feel comfortable doing and where you have fun in terms of movement, because movement shouldn't just be like, okay, now I have to go walking, jogging, blah, blah, biking, because otherwise I won't move. No, you have to find the fun parts. Like, even if it is for the people who were really on a lockdown, like in Spain and France and Italy, where you couldn't even leave your house for a while. Now they've also opened up a little bit after the lockdown, but things like, you know, living room dance party, why not? Put on your favorite tunes, you know, take a couple of dance steps, and before you know it, time has passed and you've been moving and you feel refreshed and happy again. And how do you do this on the road, or when you don't have access to gyms, for example, which haven't really opened everywhere yet? YouTube has a ton of movement and exercise videos. I, for example, found fantastic and really painful ones. For example, resistance bands. Resistance band take like about this much space, and you need about 20 minutes and you can get a full sweaty body workout. Also, profiles like the Fitness Explorer has things on YouTube that you can follow along with. There are different apps, yoga apps, high intensity apps, 7-minute apps, you know, all of these things. And motivation. This is why, again, why are you moving? Why do you feel it's important to move? Do you feel the difference in your body, or do you not? You know, and while doing what, of course. And again, with what? Things that take little space that you can store at home. You don't need a full home gym for these few weeks, or, you know, for your lifestyle of laptopping. It can be small things like a TRX bands. They're a little bit like you use your body weight to pull yourself up and stuff. YouTube and social media lives, for example, a lot of people have been generous enough to set that up, especially during the last couple of weeks. You can do yoga, you can do animal moves, you can do all of these things live with an instructor on social media or on Zoom or Instagram or wherever you want. And then, of course, the easiest of all is just use your body weight. And I also know we have other speakers talking about this, I'm sure. So I won't go too far into it, but really the power of body weight exercises, for which you need exactly zero amount of equipment, just your body and, you know, a little bit of imagination or a YouTube video, and you can get a full body workout and things are looking up. And also this trap of getting stuck sitting and, you know, hours and hours on hours just typing on your computer. Oh, just this is the email, and oh, just this, and oh, I have to answer that one, and I have to plan this. You actually have to plan to get your butt up from your seat, walk around for a while, come back with a fresh mind and maybe a glass of water, because hydration was important, right? And really plan for it. If you are using wearables, again, some of them will remind you quite fiercely. But if you don't have that, just make sure to find your productivity window, and then in between there, get up, move around. It doesn't have to be a lot, just do it. Again, track it. Track how much exercise helps you and how much movement helps you feel happier, helps you feel healthier, maybe helps you sleep better. All of these things. It's really a goldmine of information. Time management. This is definitely my pain point. And I can be a lot better, but it's good for myself to remind myself in this too. So at the end of your day, why don't you make a to-do list for the next day with a little bit of a loose schedule? It doesn't have to be 9:00 to 9:15, just things that you want to accomplish the next day. That can help so that you're already in the mindset of trying to get into the next day, and you feel comfortable and happy to wake up and do it all. Also, protect your time. This is really important, and this is especially where I need to get better at myself, but really protect your time and make time in your schedule. Don't schedule meetings back to back. Don't schedule interviews back to back, or Zooms, or phone calls, or lunch with a meeting. Make sure that you pad up so that you have time for yourself, and you have time to catch your breath and maybe de-stress for a while, because this is, again, a very stressful time, or has been for us all in the whole world. So I don't think anyone is excluded. Maybe you also have those meetings that could be a little bit more effective. Maybe you don't have to spend 2 hours discussing this one topic. Maybe you could do it a little bit differently. And I actually find this is a good thing with the lockdown, if one is allowed to say that there are good things with it. But yes, there are very many good things with it. But this is one thing, because when people don't have the other people around, they seem to not go on that long. So actually this has effectivized meetings, at least for myself. What we would have scheduled an hour for before, maybe we just need 20 minutes. And look at that, you've freed up time, and you can do something a little bit more efficient and productive, perhaps. And then tools for remote working. What do you actually need? Well, if you haven't figured out by now, I'm a little bit sorry that this presentation comes so late, but for the future, if we are remote working again, or if you decide to start your online venture or something and do remote work, make sure that you know what you need. I sometimes show in my Instagram stories, I show sort of my setup, for example, for videos, where I really professional and rather unprofessional lighting. I have my microphone set up, I have my laptop on a little stool. Like, it's so unprofessional. Technically, it has none of the fancy stuff, but it works. And this is how I can be flexible. I can take meetings, and I can do a semi-good job, if I can say myself, to at least with very little tools. And especially if you're traveling a lot normally, then you don't need all the fancy stuff, because if you're not going to be there, who's going to use it? Not you, that's for sure. And maybe you need other tools for remote work. Maybe you need, things like TeamViewer. Maybe you need, there are tons of software things that you might need as well in order to work remotely. And setting up a team remotely, all this stuff. This is a completely different topic, which I won't have time for now, but you can ask me about later, and I'll be happy to share my best tips in setting up teams remotely. So, how can you improve your mindset? And this is not just regarding online work or laptop lifestyle. This is actually also the general attitude towards life. You can use the same things for changing your view on life, but how can you do it? It's so difficult. Well, there are a few mindset do's and don'ts, actually, because change is really hard. And even if it is like an imposed change, like, for example, working from your laptop from home because there's a lockdown, It requires planning, it requires persistence, it requires a step-by-step sort of planning thing. It requires you to visualize when and how and where, and change can, admittedly, whether it is imposed or self-imposed, it can be really tough. But you know what? It's almost, and I had to say that, almost always worth it, for sure. So a few do's and don'ts. Start small. Don't expect perfection from day one. I don't think anyone was perfectly fantastic at work the first day of the lockdown, for example. But this is just so that you can get into the habit. And so don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect from day one. And step by step, if you do small things step by step, they become a habit and it makes it a little bit easier. Make sure that you're thinking a little bit forward. I know, we should all be in the now and in the moment and all this stuff. Yes, that's great. But also you have to have a little bit of a forward trajectory when you're thinking. It's also very important to have something to look forward to, for example, which is slightly more challenging perhaps in these times, but it's definitely not impossible. And again, it's so individual, these things. So you have to find what motivates you. And this is really all about making the absolute best out of what you have to work with and your situation. And it's also believing that people can develop their abilities, like that you as a person can develop your abilities, that you're not stuck. And that you can actually grow your talent. It's not static by any means. These beliefs are actually key to happiness. That sounds really lame, but that's actually how it is. Your beliefs make, what you believe makes your happiness. And the wrong belief can also cause you problems, and it can also give you some hiccups and also setbacks. This is not to say that it's not hard work. It's incredibly hard work, but with new strategies, seeking a little bit of feedback perhaps, and giving it your full effort, you can really change your life in that way. Here's some don'ts. Don't blame the lack of time, especially now when you're not commuting or anything like that. You don't actually have a lack of time. You have a lack of structuring and you have a lack of priorities. That's all that lack of time is. Don't be paralyzed by setbacks. Everyone has setbacks every day, even if we start counting them, really. And don't let them be paralyzing, because that makes you into, or sets you in this very it's not a very attractive place to be. So learn from setbacks, don't let them be paralyzing. And also, please don't make excuses. Don't make excuses that you don't have time or that you can't do it and blah, blah, blah. We can do anything we want to. I really firmly believe that we can, as long as we set our minds to it, we can make anything happen, even a mindset shift. And this is my one of my favorite memes that I've ever seen. I think this is the iceberg of success. And people see, it's a little bit like the Titanic. People see very, very little of what actually is going on and what actually you have put into that success happen. And this is why, you sometimes think you see, especially in the online entrepreneur world, you think you see an overnight success and someone who just blows up like that. And they're like, oh my God, that person is so cool. Yeah, what you don't see is their persistence. You haven't seen how many goddamn times they've failed. Because we all have. You haven't seen the sacrifice, the late nights, the early mornings. You haven't seen the disappointments, hearing no way too many times. You haven't seen the discipline that it takes to do it. You haven't seen all the hard work. You've seen some of the hard work, but not all of it. You haven't seen the dedication. And this is true whether you're an online entrepreneur, whether you have a temporary laptop lifestyle. This sort of becomes highlighted more as you are sitting by your laptop alone and maybe don't have that every minute of every day exchange with people. So there are a few rules of thumb, steps to success, not really a blueprint, but sort of. And it goes in 4 stages, or there are 4 parts to it. And the first one is mindset, which we just talked about a little bit ago. And that is that it's important that you recognize that you're in complete control of your own feelings, emotions, and your results, actually. This is where a growth mindset, learning from your mistakes, not thinking you're hopeless, this is where it really comes in. So mindset is huge here. And this is a daily practice. You have to work on this every day of your life. The second one is motivation. And motivation is really your catalyst to action. So this is where goal setting is really important, and different types of it exists everywhere. This is just a quick Google away. And you can do this in different ways and make sure that you do these things step by step and keep your motivation there. And your motivation goes together with your mindset, and they go together with momentum. And because action is momentum, which is the mindset, which is the motivation. So they really all go hand in hand, along with the last little piece of the puzzle, which is planning. What do you want? What do you want to achieve? How do you want to achieve it? The results are, they become the reasons, and they become the actions to why you are doing this. So this is a small little summary of a few steps to success. There are, of course, many other things that we can do and what happens, but this is sort of a very important part. So to summarize a little bit, because this has been a whirlwind, we've gone through a little bit about nutrition, not too much, because this is a broad topic, but how important it is to fuel your brain, and how much we can do with being, for example, fat adapted, and maybe not eating so much sugar. How much hydration makes a difference. Hydration, as I said, works in the whole body. It works with all the cells. It works with everything. Digestion, all of it. So make sure that you do hydrate properly throughout the day, with or without electrolytes. You'll have to try out what works better for you. But the main point is hydration. And what supplements? Are supplements a thing for you? Should you consider them? Should you not? The maybe rule of thumb ones were vitamin D, magnesium, and omega-3. But yes, there's a lot that can be done there too. What about stress? Poor Rachel. How can we help her de-stress a little bit, or maybe even one or two of you? Well, first of all, sleep properly, proper sleeping times, proper sleeping hygiene, which is a funny word, I find. But yes, it's very important to sleep properly. Movement, it also helps stress, to move our bodies, and that's really important. Time and time management, and making sure that you have enough time for your tasks allotted. Your mindset, the do's and the don'ts that we went through. What is success, and the success iceberg, and also how do we succeed? What are the main sort of parts to it? And that was the last 4 that I showed in the previous slide. And now I wanted to leave you with a little bit of a question. What is your next step to improve your laptop lifestyle? You can contact me on any of these channels if you want to chat about this or diabetes or anything else in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and take care and stay safe.